Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review. This time we are talking about Confessions of a Puppet Master by Charles Band. Before we get into it though, I want to just kind of go over who Charles Band is and whatnot and all that. So let's start off with how did I come to learn about Charles Band? So I've mentioned on this channel before a time or two that I normally try to go to the Texas Frightmare Convention. Um, I've been and I saw that Charles company, Full Moon Features, had a booth there. If you don't know, he also did Empire Video and whatnot. So I'd seen him there. I'd never got to meet him, and I've seen some of the movies that he's done. I've seen advertisements for him and whatnot. Most notably, though, he's known for Puppet Master or the Evil Bong series. But again, and I was watching Christian over at Planet CHH, and he has quite a few videos talking about this. And I saw that he had this book sitting next to him in one of his videos. So I looked it up and I saw, hey, you know what? They had this on Amazon. And I just debated on buying it because I was like, that'd be kind of cool to learn a little bit about Charles Band. But it wasn't until I sat down and watched the Puppet Master movies, or the first five in particular, last October in 2023. I fell in love with them. I've watched them numerous times since then. They are definitely going to become a staple in October for my 31 on 31 for Halloween movies and whatnot. But I saw that, Christian had this book, and I knew that Charles had a booth at Texas Frightmare before. And I wanted to wait. I didn't want to buy it on Amazon just in case I would get the chance to meet Charles and whatnot and talk to him about his book and his movies. Well, unfortunately, I did not get to go this year to Texas Frightmare, but I had a couple family members who did go, and they were able to pick up this copy. And I'd showed you guys this before in the video when I talked about how I was going to read this. But I was able to get it signed and whatnot. But reading through this book, I discovered more and more about Charles Band and whatnot. And just to kind of show you a couple movies that Charles Band has been a part of in production-wise. Obviously, you had the Puppet Master movies, but he did Ghoulies, which was one of his Empire Pictures, Empire Video movies. I honestly just watched this in October. I didn't realize Charles Band had anything to do with this. I should have, because on the back it even says Charles Band. But that just kind of gives you a little bit of background on how I came to get a hold of this book. So let's get into the book review. We're going to start off with, I'm going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly of review of this book. So we're going to start off with the good. The good is this book moves really, really fast. I honestly found myself the first night I read over 100 pages of this book, which for me is saying a lot, because I really have to like a book in order to fly through it that quickly. Books that I've read that I've flown through that quickly are, Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley, my Louis L'Amour books and whatnot. So 100 pages into this book, I could tell that I was already going to love it. His first few chapters just kind of sets up his life. And I found this book very, very interesting because, as the book goes on, we find out that Charles Band really has been in the movie industry for 40-something years. I mean, in the first or second chapter, we find out that his dad was working on a Western over in Milan, Italy, I believe is where it was. And it talks about how they were sharing a hotel room with another production that was going on for another spaghetti Western. And how, the production that his dad was working for, they had really big names and whatnot, but this other production only had like one name really, and it was an unknown American who just ended his TV series, and he was trying to strike it out and be a movie star. And that movie was Clint Eastwood's A Fistful of Dollars. I mean, he just started off with a bang in this book, talking about how he met a young Clint Eastwood and whatnot. And so, I already knew there. I was like, man, he knew Eastwood back then. So I already knew that I was going to love that book. And the further we got into this book, the more that you come to realize that Charles Band, he has made some mistakes, and he's honest with you about it. He's not going to say, no, it wasn't my fault. He's like, yeah, I messed up. I hired this person and this person. I shouldn't have done that, or I should have, kind of kept them separated. And so we find out more and more about Charles Band as this book goes on, which is to be expected. But the more I found myself reading this book, the more I felt like I was just listening or having a conversation with him. It was like I was asking questions I didn't even realize I was asking, and he was just answering them. He talks about his multiple marriages that he had and whatnot. He talks about, having worked with John Carpenter before Halloween came out, and then he talks about one of his most well-known movies, Tourist Trap, how he was making that down the street, and on the other end of the street, you had John Carpenter and Deborah Hill making The Babysitter Murders, which would be AKA Halloween. So he talks about this, and he talks about how in that movie, he kind of reflects on his dad and his career, because he's like, yeah, in my movie, we had some really big, bigger names, whereas, Halloween didn't really have anybody really named. I mean, they had Donald Pleasance, but that was about it. So this is definitely a book, that if you're just wanting to find out Hollywood history and you're not really concerned about, the glitz and the glamour of it, just finding out about Hollywood history, I would say pick up this book. It really is a great book. The more, like I said, the more I read this book, the more I fell in love with it. And I think, if you can't tell, I really did love this book. And again, we find out more and more stuff about Charles Band. Not trying to give away a whole lot in this book, but, he opens up this book. The first chapter is him talking about creating Corona zombies and whatnot, and how his movies, or a lot of his movies, if there was a big event happening at that point in time in the U.S. or whatever, he would capitalize on it and try to make a movie out of it, because he's like, what, when you look back at it from a few years down the line, he's like, there's going to be enough people that if this event happened, they're going to look back and kind of laugh at it or remember that and whatnot. And so again, just the stories that he tells in this, without trying to give too much away, we find out he bought a castle in Romania. I mean, he bought, or land in Romania. He bought a castle in Italy. I mean, he talks about buying one of Houdini's houses. Sorry, I can't speak today. And again, that's the good. The bad of this book, I wish it was longer. That's the big thing that I have with that, is I really wish this book was longer. I wish at the end, and it's a nitpick, I wish he had every single movie that he had made in publication when it came out. Obviously, he's had, I think, 300 or 400 plus movies at this point that he's been, associated with. So I understand why he wouldn't do that, because it would add probably about another 60 or 80 pages to this book. But again, I wish it was longer. I wish he would have, especially on his bigger movies. He talks about, Tourist Trap, Ghoulies, The Puppet Master. He talks about like Puppet Master 1, Puppet Master 3 a little bit. I wish he would have gone a little bit more in depth talking about that. But I'm sure there's tons of videos out there that you can watch to find out more, where he has an interview. I've actually since I've started this book, I've been listening to his podcast on Spotify. And I guess you can watch them live on Tubi or when they happen. So I'm going to go back and rewatch some of those. And he, talks to John Carpenter, Kane Hodder, Tom Savini, and whatnot. And again, that's the bad with this. The ugly, I don't really have anything. I mean, the ugly is supposed to be if things I could see that some people wouldn't like. I don't see that in this book. I really don't. I mean, even then, the bad was just a nitpick. I just wish it was a longer book. After finishing this book, I realized, what am I going to rate it? And instantly, I gave it 5 stars. I think this is a perfect autobiography. It really is. And I really hope this video gets out there so that Mr. Band could see this, because I think that this book should be more popular than what it is. I feel like this goes a little bit under the radar. But again, guys, I can't recommend this book enough. If you are a fan of, cheesy horror movies, or if you like the Puppet Master movies back in the day, or Ghoulies, or, you liked old, like cult following movies like this, Orgy of the Living Dead. Essentially what this is, it's like a zombie or vampire movie. I bought this at the convention when I went my first year, and I have yet to watch it. But Charles Band's big thing is he will take old he would take old cult movies and bring them back and put them on his thing. I'm gonna do a little pop for his, streaming service. I signed up for it. That's how much I really love this book. I've started listening to his podcast. He didn't have a whole lot of episodes, but I've just sat through and I've probably listened to 5 or 6 of them at this point. I signed up for his streaming thing, so I can watch some of his movies. I mean, there's a lot of movies in this, like I said, that he, references. He references Doll Man, Castle Freak, he references Ghoulies quite a bit, Puppet Master. I mean, he references movies that I'd never even heard of that I want to go watch now, like Subspecies, which is a movie, a series that he made, and he talks about how, that was filmed in Romania and whatnot because he wanted a vampire movie in Romania. And he talks about how people in Romania, they hate vampires. They think they're stupid and whatnot. They think they're just an attraction for Americans. Let me get rid of this here real quick. Sorry, guys. I had something pop up on my screen there. Another thing, too, that he references in this book, I found out his son was a lead singer of a band back in the early 2000s. Didn't know that, apparently. So, again, guys, and he references quite a few different, big Hollywood names in this. There's one chapter where he talks about the Gingerbread Man, which, the original one starred Gary Busey, I think is how you say it. If Mr. Busey's watching this movie, or however you want to say it, don't come after me, I'm sorry. But he talks about, his experience working with him and whatnot, and just how chaotic that was. He talked a little bit about that on his podcast too. But again, guys, I can't highly recommend this book enough. This is my first 5-star, 10-star, whatever you want to say it, book of the year, and I don't give these out lightly. I think, I don't know if I've ever given that out. I absolutely love this book. Eventually, I want to meet Mr. Band in person and just ask him some questions that I have, about, the film industry and about certain movies and whatnot. So again, guys, I can't highly recommend this book enough. Go pick it up. It's like $13, $14, $15 on Amazon. You will not be disappointed. Again, guys, this is such a great book. I couldn't put it down. Go pick up this book as soon as you can. While you're at it, go on, download the Tubi app. His movies are on there. Go watch Puppet Master movies. Give it to the second or third one and see if you like them. I promise you will. They're cheesy, but I love them. So again, guys, Confessions of a Puppet Master by Charles Band. I cannot highly recommend this book enough. Go pick it up. Thank you.